California Congressman Eric Swalwell has officially joined the 2020 race for president. The Democrat chose to announce his run Monday night during an appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
And I see a country in quicksand, unable to solve problems and threats from abroad, unable to make life better for people here at home. Nothing gets done. And none of that is going to change until we get a leader who is willing to go big on the issues we take on, be bold in the solutions we offer, and do good in the way that we govern. I'm ready to solve these problems. I'm running for president of the United States.
With his announcement, Swalwell became the 18th Democrat to join the presidential race, making it the largest Democratic field in primary history. Melissa Caen is a political reporter at our CBS San Francisco station, KPIX. She joins us now from San Francisco. Melissa, thanks so much for being with us. Congressman Swalwell is an emerging figure in the Democratic Party. For our viewers who are not familiar with him, tell us more about him and what he has done during his time in Congress.
Well, so Eric Swalwell, 38 years old, and the first most important thing you should know about him is that he was born in Iowa, and he lived there for the first 5 years of his life. And so he's been taking a number of trips back there and is really hoping that a good showing in Iowa early on in the caucuses will propel the rest of his campaign. Now, eventually he ends up in California, where he becomes a district attorney and then gets on city council. And then, this is the second really important thing to know, is he won his congressional seat by ousting a 40-year incumbent named Pete Stark, who was an absolute institution, who had the backing of President Obama. So Eric Swalwell not afraid to take on a fight, even when other folks aren't so sure about his chances there. In terms of his time in Congress, ever since he's been there, it's essentially either been Republican-controlled or had a Republican president. So like a lot of Democrats, he really doesn't have any number of signature pieces of legislation. The party just hasn't had that kind of power since he's been there. But he's been active in a number of bipartisan committees and commissions and groups that come together across the aisle to solve problems.
Well, the Democratic field is larger than ever before, and it is still expected to continue growing ahead of the 2020 election. So how does Eric Swalwell compare to his competition as he begins his run for president?
Well, he's definitely going to have to answer the question, why you? Because he's young, but other candidates are young. In terms of his policies, he's really very similar to every other Democrat that's already in the race. So there is a question of what he really brings to the table. Now, he does have a very robust, one of the best social media platforms with his campaign, with his office that we've seen. And he also, of course, has the Iowa roots, and he also has been a real champion of gun control and really put forth some very bold gun control ideas that have really gotten him a lot of enemies on the right, and really made that a very signature issue for him. So we can see him talking a lot about that going forward.
And do we know why he's deciding to run now?
Well, Eric Swalwell is a very ambitious man. He ran for city council very young. He ran for Congress very young. And even if he doesn't win the presidency, there may not be a downside to just trying, right? We see people like Ben Carson and Rick Perry who were able to translate a national profile through the campaigns into cabinet positions. And so it may be the case that he's hoping to win the presidency, but sees that it can't hurt to raise his national stature to maybe move up the ladder in some other capacity.
So you mentioned gun control. He has been an outspoken advocate for gun reform. He said that it will be a cornerstone of his campaign. Can you give us more details? What about the platform that he's planning to run on, and who is he looking to appeal to as he kicks off his campaign?
So, yeah, his platform is actually very similar to a lot of other Democrats, very progressive, big ideas. Although, again, when it comes to gun control, he's very, very specific about wanting to buy back and just ban certain types of guns, which, again, have gotten him some real enemies from the gun rights folks. In addition, he really talks about how he's a millennial. And so he's got student loan debt and a young family, and he's struggling to buy a house in the Bay Area. And he really puts that out there as his ability to really really feel the pain of folks around his age. In addition to the folks in Iowa, where he's really talking up his Midwestern roots and talking about how he really understands them, talking about how he's the first person in his family to graduate from college, and reaching out to those folks as well. So I think he feels like he's got good inroads with those two groups.
And finally, Melissa, before we let you go, California is moving up their primary in the election cycle than previously before. Could this help or hurt Congressman Swalwell as he makes his bid for president?
Well, it won't hurt him, I think, but the degree to which it'll help him is unclear. We still have Kamala Harris, who has much bigger name recognition statewide. She has won 2 statewide elections, and so really well known up and down the state, where Swalwell's notoriety is really more here in the Bay Area. In addition, you have candidates like Bernie Sanders, who have made multiple stops in California already. So those sort of non-California candidates really making an inroads here as well. So he's still got a lot of competition. I don't know how much being a California congressman is really going to help him in light of all that competition.
All right, Melissa Caen, thank you so much, Melissa.
Thanks for having me.